Well, as we now move towards a very definitive local government election that's coming up later this year, we know what the court had said about moving it from October to February. It's no longer going to be happening as well. So in mere months, how concerned should we be that the elections are taking place, considering the kind of corruption we're dealing with at the moment? What a pleasure it is. Former Scopa chairperson Themba Godi joining us to discuss the impact of various things. Mr. Godi, good to have you with us. Let's talk about fraud, corruption, and the endless bailing out of SOEs. But before we get to that, as we're discussing corruption, we've just seen these numbers. 676 billion rand is the kind of extra revenue we could have had it not been for corruption in this country. How badly did it damage South Africa?
Good morning, and thanks very much for having me. Indeed, corruption is a cancer, is a big, big problem that we have. The countless opportunities that have been missed, the lives that have been lost, the gut-wrenching poverty in which people have lived, cannot even be put in statistics. But in rands and cents, I think the picture that your colleague has just painted is scary, but unfortunately it is true. And I've seen all the gory figures, even though, you know, the Auditor General only takes a sample. So whatever horror figures that the Auditor General gave us were just a sample out of a big pot. So we indeed bled. We were bled dry, and we continue to be bled dry by corrupt practices and corrupt individuals.
I suppose, Mr. Godi, it also is then going to bring into conversation why South Africans don't seem to trust government when it comes to the handling of various projects. We were all hoping, weren't we? I'm sure you were the same, that when it got to COVID-19 and PPE, that this would be the one thing that would not end up being corrupted and defrauded. Yet even something as simple as saving other people's lives, it seems, has been corrupted as well. I mean, how do you feel about this? Are you resigned to the fact that this is just how we are as a country, or are you furious about what happened?
Well, I think the PPE corruption saga finally dropped the penny, I think, on any right-thinking South African, to accept that we do not have a developmental state, we have a predatory state. That is, we have a group of people who look at the state not as an instrument to improve the lives of the people, but as a feeding trough for themselves. Worse still, in the middle of a pandemic where we are supposed to save lives, especially when you have an administration that came on the ticket of fighting corruption, and having made commitments before the money was released that we are going to put in place all measures to safeguard the money. And I don't think that there could have been anything worse, disgusting and frightening and so revealing than the corruption of, the COVID Relief Fund, where it was a life and death. Well, it continues to be a life and death struggle. But here you have people who are supposed to be the leaders of the country at various levels, who saw that as an opportunity to feed themselves. And I think it is for that reason that many people have hesitancy in placing their faith on government when it comes to managing projects, when it comes to managing expenditure, because proof from the Auditor General, from the media, confirms their suspicion that you have a bunch of political hyenas who use the state to feed themselves and not to serve the people.
Do you think come the local government elections now happening in October, we know the ANC we're looking to have that move to February of next year, do you think people are sick and tired of the hyenas feasting? Could this be the year, do you think, Mr. Godi, that we could see a severe drop in support for the ANC?
Well, look, the president himself over the weekend indicated that the people do no longer trust the ANC government. The people are angry at the ANC government. And the president last year himself admitted that the ANC is accused number one when it comes to corruption. The fact that the ANC is falling apart cannot be a measure of confidence, cannot bring about confidence in the people. When you have a party that can't pay its own employees, when you have a party that cannot punch in names of its candidates into a computer for them to be registered, when you have a party that cannot add, if you are contesting 100 municipalities, how much should you pay? Then it just tells you that it actually confirms what we have, which is that local government has literally collapsed. There are no services, there is no good government. So there is no way. I think even Kgalema Motlanthe, the former president, admitted that things are going to be bad. And my sense, interacting with people all around, is that the penny has finally dropped. There is an acceptance and realization that whatever people thought the governing party was, it certainly is not. However, what we need between now and the elections, it's the realization that voting differently is actually a way of freeing oneself, or freeing the community from the kind of incompetence and corruption, which I think the figures that your colleague mentioned cannot lie. They are there, they are objective, they are factual. So you can't argue with facts that we have a serious problem of corruption, and there is no one in the ANC, no one who has the guts, who has the desire, who has the strength to fight against corruption. It's systemic right from the top to the bottom.
I couldn't have said it better if I tried. Mr. Themba Godi, what a pleasure to have you on. Always good to speak to you here on ENCA. Former Scopa chairperson, Themba Godi. It's very interesting as we go to these elections. I think this could very well be a different local government elections than what we've seen in the past. Certainly seems like the ANC are going to be scrambling to try and keep some of their support base. October, the elections, not far from where we are now.